Hi everyone, Sid here, back in the bathroom ready for another shaving rant. Today's lather will be supplemented by tea tree oil, patchouli and peppermint, and for the aftershave I'll be going back to bobanum. For today's video I'd like to talk about when not to talk about liberty. Basically, I was inspired by this topic earlier today for some strange reason. It's been something I'd been mulling over whether or not to discuss on this channel, because the thrust of this video is that life is short, and I think if you're already sympathetic to the ideas of liberty, you realize how few of us there are out there. There's a saying that I heard Bill Bupert say a couple times when he's been on other shows that I listen to, which is that the idea of terraforming the philosophical landscape one disobedient serf at a time. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with these videos, although, just to be clear, this isn't a libertarian blog. It's just, the idea is to talk about whatever's on my mind. It's just, these ideas come up a lot often. They come up often, and so that's why it's going to be a common theme that comes up through these videos. So the idea, first of all, I want to be able to distinguish. I want to be able to use a word to talk about non-libertarians that isn't as it doesn't sound as condescending as serf. So I've decided, for the purposes of this video, to do what a lot of professions do. I noticed that a lot of professions and circles tend to talk about people who are not in the profession or the circle using the term civilian. So for the purposes of this video, whenever I use the term civilian or civ or civvy, I'm basically talking about someone who's not a libertarian. So to continue with this thread, basically some civs are savable and some aren't. And the idea is it's really important to be able to distinguish one from the other, because if you're interested in having these people in your life, and that's completely up to you, sometimes by determining whether or not they're savable, you can spare yourself a lot of grief by trying to butt heads with this person on a consistent basis, all to spend a lot of time needlessly discussing, but what about the roads, but what about the poor, and all that stuff. I mean, it's kind of important to know when someone is open to change their perspective through conversation. So basically what I like to do, because I'm often in situations where I meet people and you know, I don't go out of my way to talk about the ideas of liberty or anything, but I think that it's important with topics that often come up, like politics or that kind of thing. I mean, politics always or often comes up in conversation, to be able to see whether or not someone is worth talking with about the ideas of liberty or not. I'll be right back. So for this video, none of this is prescriptive, obviously. Again, if I had the hubris to think I could just tell you how to live your life, I'd be running for office. But I'm just going to share some general thoughts that I have and strategies that I use to separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, and determine, first of all, maybe this person that I'm meeting and discussing with is already a libertarian or already open to the ideas of liberty, or maybe they're not savable and now it's time to talk about sports and you know, celebrity gossip and whatever's on TV or whatever. Not that I'm particularly informed about these things, but if the person that I'm speaking to has shown signs that he or she isn't savable, well, there's not much, there's not many places to go from there. So, something that I look out for when basically there are two kinds of things. There are what I call bad clues, and there are a couple insta-fails. So, something I consider a bad clue is when someone talks about politicians and bureaucrats. Ooh, I almost dropped that. Something I consider a bad clue is when someone will talk about politicians and bureaucrats as if they're incompetent. I think that when someone says that, it's not necessarily that they're not savable, but I know that I have that much more work to do to, if I intend on getting them to see the proverbial gun in the room. I think that when someone talks about politicians and bureaucrats as if they're incompetent, because, you know, anyone except for the most mind-controlled, indoctrinated person knows that the system that we have right now is slowly going to shit. And that unless you're paying absolutely no attention to what politicians do or say during their campaigns, that once they get into power, they basically do the opposite of what they said they were going to do. So the thing is, when you see this getting the opposite result from what you claim you want to do as incompetence, it's kind of it kind of feeds into this myth that if we could only get the right person to power, then all of a sudden everything would go well. I'll be right back. So that's why I really look for lack of a better term, cynicism, and I'm likely going to shoot a video on cynicism in the eventual future, let's just put it that way. But a promising sign to me that a civ is savable is when they refer to politicians and bureaucrats as crooks. I think that's one of the nicest ways to put it. And you know what, before I forget to mention this, I don't believe that everyone in government is bad. I absolutely believe that there are good people in government. But I also believe that these good people in government will remain in the bottom rungs of government for as long, basically, whatever good people are in government will remain at the bottom rungs of the government, either until they stop working for the government or until they become evil. I think that it's kind of a necessary trait to come up to those higher rungs where you get interviewed on television or whatever. And yeah, I'm sure there might be a couple exceptions. I mean, Ron Paul got interviewed on TV, but it was mainly to laugh at him. But to come back to my point, I think that when a civ is talking about the bureaucrats as crooks, then at least it tells me that they can kind of see the gun in the room. I give double plus bonus points if this person is if your guy is in power, basically. Because something I've noticed, and it kind of drives me nuts, is that almost anyone can see the coercion in the system when it's not their guy in power, or when some law is being passed that they disagree with. I mean, lately, my lately my Facebook has been peppered with these comments about how Stephen Harper is destroying Canada or doing some crazy shit. And some of these comments are things that I actually agree that are completely crazy. But where you lose me is that it has nothing to do with Stephen Harper. Whoever would be in power would be doing the same thing, or at least other things that a bunch of other people on the other side of the aisle would say, hey, this person is destroying the country and doing crazy shit. And basically the two main comments that I see right now are how Harper is doing crazy shit at the federal level, and how Kuya is doing crazy shit at the provincial level. Yeah, okay, cool. That's really, it's nice and all that you can see the gun in the room when someone else is, when someone who's not your guy is in power and doing shit that you disagree with. But if it is your guy or someone who happens to propose things that you agree with, and you're still calling him or her a crook, then you might already be a libertarian or are well on the way to becoming it. So I see a lot of notes here that I didn't get into. So basically, I'm gonna leave you with a final thing: the insta fails, because there's some bad clues where you either refer to people as being incompetent when they're doing the opposite of what they claim they want to do, or also things like buying into common euphemisms, like like talking about government as if they have money, which they don't. They don't have any money that they didn't steal, print, or borrow. And one insta-fail that will instantly get you into the sports and celebrity gossip chit-chat list is when you talk about an event where you're being fined for a code violation, and you start using words like, it serves me right, I learned my lesson, I should have followed the rules, and that kind of stuff. Someone who says this, I know, at least in the short term, is not savable, not now. And I don't waste my time talking about liberty with these people, because and this is why it's an insta-fail to me, if you don't have any empathy for yourself, how the fuck are you supposed to have empathy for anyone else? So when I talk about how, this magic pill of just taxing the rich more doesn't work and is evil even if it did, with someone who I don't know, gets ticketed for no seatbelt and says, oh, it serves me right, I should have known better or whatever, that's going to fall on deaf ears. So that's going to be it for today. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it made enough sense. There's a lot of stuff I left here unsaid. Maybe I'll be able to shoot a part 2 if there's enough of it. I'll sift through that later. But in the meantime, you can please like and comment. Leave comments under this video. You can please subscribe to me on YouTube. And on Twitter, I'm at SidrockMTL. And my Tumblr is sidrock.tumblr.com. Of course, links to all of these are right under this video. So thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you really soon.